talk about Velma. No, no, no. We don't talk about Velma. This bit doesn't make any sense because I'm literally about to talk about Velma. Ugh. Pouring the drink way away from the computer. And then I'm putting the rest of the drink on the floor. Hey guys, my computer's back and I decided to celebrate by absolutely torturing myself by watching possibly one of the worst things that I have seen for not the reasons you think, well maybe some of the reasons you think. A lot of people have already talked about this. Probably half of what I'm gonna say has already been said by somebody else whose video was edited better than mine. So here's the thing. Everybody on the internet has been talking about Velma. Truly, I have seen not just people who cover cartoons and Scooby-Doo specifically and nostalgic content, but I've seen political commentators talking about Velma. I've seen Velma being cringe compilations. I've seen YouTube Shorts creators that just like to talk about celebrity drama talking about Velma. I've seen it all.
I think this is just one of those like unifying moments where everyone comes together to hate something equally because the show is just that awful.
Now, I'm sure that you're assuming, based on the little you know of me and the description of this show, that this is a show that I would absolutely love. And I'm sorry to tell you that that truly couldn't be further from the truth.
I had my doubts after watching the trailer, but I did not expect it to be this bad.
And here's the thing. I know a little bit about nostalgia. At least I hope I do at this point in being on YouTube talking about nostalgic, obscure, and otherwise strange things. Oh, hi! Welcome back to my channel where I cover nostalgic, obscure, otherwise strange things. Before this came out, when the trailer dropped and everybody was angry about it, there was a part of me that was like, you know what? Let's just wait. Let's just do that. And maybe the trailer is just not cut that well. Maybe some of the outrage is coming from people like upset because people don't like messing with nostalgic things. Like nostalgia is a very triggering emotion, for better or for worse, for people. I even said to some people on my live streams, hey, calm down and wait for the show to come out and then see if it's bad. And I would just like to say to that, hey, we've waited for the show to come out. We were calm and then it was really bad. And at first I wasn't gonna talk about this because I intensely dislike this show, personally. And by the way, if you're somebody who likes the show, I'm not bashing you for liking the show. I don't want to be what this show is, which is just contrarian about everybody that isn't them. But we'll circle back around to that point in a minute. I also know that everybody's been talking about this show, and at first I was like, I don't know how much more I can say, but then I decided that that's not necessarily true. And also I just feel the need to vent to a camera, because I have thoughts. So join me on this further descent into madness. This show doesn't need my attention, and this video doesn't need to waste that much of my time, so I will try to keep this brief. In fact, shout out to my mom, who gave me for Christmas a little magnet timer, where you just set it with whatever number you want to be counted down on the top, and then it just starts counting. Isn't that great? Thanks, Mom. I am gonna set this for 30 minutes. And at the end of 30 minutes, I'm gonna be done ranting into this camera. I'm losing my ability to form words because I've just got so much rage. Also, if you've watched my videos before, you probably know that I usually like to kind of make it feel cozy, make it feel like we're watching this thing together. This is gonna be much more of an kind of me telling you about the show and just kind of showing you some clips over it. I'm probably putting the clips in right now because I just don't want to have to watch this whole thing again, and I don't want you to have to watch this whole thing again. I'll give you all the bullet points. Alright, and go. Okay, so if you've watched my content before, you might know that I very much love Scooby-Doo. I love it so much, in fact, that I have a whole playlist for it here on my channel, which I know is not saying a lot because I have a lot of playlists on this channel, but this playlist has 5 videos and counting. Actually, by the time you're seeing this, this will be the 6th video, and I haven't even done Zombie Island yet. Can you believe it? This is getting a video before Zombie Island. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have to do that video soon. Anyway, it's something I've loved since I was a kid, and I found out, much like a lot of other things on this channel, because nostalgia is such a core part of what I do here, just how much and how deep other people's love for this show is. On top of the Scooby-Doo content I cover in regular videos, I also do a lot of live streams on this channel. Oftentimes I read books and discuss them with chat, and we have been reading, I don't know if you can see over here, these are all Scooby-Doo books, like junior novels, kind of. I bought a whole set of this really obscure Scooby-Doo and You series that I thought I was the only one who remembered, and just kind of started reading through them with chat like I do with other books, and it's just been a nice, chill experience. There's a lot of us adults that just really have fond memories of Scooby-Doo, and we just kind of gather around and read them together and just share opinions and just discuss this obscure media like we always do. But I have seen many people in my comments say about Scooby-Doo and just about, you know, nostalgia being covered on this channel in general, that this kind of content helps to kind of heal their inner child because it kind of gives them permission to like things again that they liked as a kid that they thought they had to grow out of at some point, or things that, you know, maybe they thought they weren't supposed to like as a kid because their parents didn't really get it, you know, they thought it was like too childish and like whatever, or just, you know, for whatever reason they just felt like they weren't allowed at some point in their life to just like the kids content that they like and just kind of turn their brain off and have just kind of like an I'm a kid moment again. You can tell where I'm going with this very fractured train of thought. Velma is the opposite of that. Velma feels like it was made by people who hate Scooby-Doo, hate animation, and definitely hate anybody who's like still into stuff that they liked as a kid, and definitely think they're better than those people. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let me just scrub through this just so that I can remember some of the main horrible points. This show starts off with Velma, you know, saying that this is going to be her origin story. Whatever, origin stories are usually about white men, something, I don't know.
Normally, origin stories are about tall, handsome guys struggling with the burden of being handed even more power.
She's like, this is what it's gonna be. And then you're like, okay. I have seen other people say, and because I don't want to be what I am criticizing and be just overly contrarian about everything, I will point out the things here and there that I do like. The titles of the books on her shelf are actually kind of funny. I like the scuba do's and don'ts as like it's a Scooby-Doo throwaway, you know, because they took Scooby out of the show and that doesn't make any sense. But anyway, after that, it cuts to a scene that if you've seen anybody cover this, you probably have already heard of, right? This is a scene that I really don't want to show because it makes me very uncomfortable for several reasons, where Daphne and a bunch of her friends are in the locker room showers and they're all naked, pretty much. Basically, they've covered nothing. You see animation, butt, and most of boob, and they make some kind of comment about how like, oh, isn't it weird how like HBO shows always have like gratuitous nudity in the first episode only. Other people have talked about this. This is not something new that I'm bringing to the table, but just to reiterate, because I very much agree with it. Those are teenagers, first of all. I know they're cartoons. I know blah 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 blah. In the story, they're meant to be high schoolers. That makes me very uncomfortable. I don't care for that at all. But also, it's just not good. They're trying to make a meta commentary on overuse of sex as a marketing tool. But they're not actually like saying one way or another how they feel about it, because at one hand they're doing it, but on the other hand they're trying to critique it. What would be more kind of admirable, for lack of a better word, in my mind would be if they were like, if there were two characters, like if Daphne and Velma were like, hey, let's go talk about this while we hit the showers, and one of them goes, no, because like shows like this already use too much gratuitous nudity, and also we're minors, who wants to sexualize like just calling out the fact that it's weird and wrong for them to do it in some way, or just not do it. Not doing it is also a preferable option, but you know. There's also a clip that I'm not going to show where cockroaches are having sex. That's just a thing. I don't know why that's a thing. It disturbs me just like the little dancing cockroaches in Cats, the movie. I don't know why people keep trying to make fictional cockroaches creepier than real cockroaches. Anyway, Velma comes in and just starts cornering Daphne for apparently no reason, as far as we the audience can tell. and makes another, like, very meta joke. There's a lot of meta commentary, which people are quick to point out is done very poorly. I'm a big fan of meta commentary, like, when it's done right. But, like, for it to be meta commentary, you can't just do, like, this lampshady thing where you're just like, we're pointing out all the weird things that we are actively choosing to do before you can, so now you can't say anything about it. That's not meta commentary. That's just you being insecure in your own writing, in my opinion. I've never written an HBO show, what do I know? Anyway, after this, we find the first murder victim, because this is a murder. Again, don't really want to show so much because he's censoring. This murder victim, like all the other murder victims we will see, have had their brain removed.
I'm not dissing her. She has no brain!
Very, very bad day for them. Anyway, would you believe that's not the grossest thing that we're gonna see? Daphne gets brought in for questioning because the body was found in her locker. The cops that bring her in for questioning are married, I believe, or they're partners, and they are Daphne's moms. They've adopted Daphne. By the way, I don't know if anybody else noticed this, but in the IMDb credits, they are specifically listed as one of them having the last name Blay and the other one having the last name because Daphne's last name is Blake, so it's like a mixing of their two names. I don't know that that's how any adoptive couple of any sexual orientation has named their children for their surnames. Feels a little bit cutesy of this show to do it. If you've done it in real life and that's the way that you have given your children surnames, that's great. Honestly, we should stop giving everybody just their dad's names if the mom is the one that's actively giving.
3 days later.
But anyway, one more thing, because I don't want to be too contrarian. I do like the voice acting in this show. It's got a great cast. Like, it's one of those things where, not since the newest version of The Twilight Zone have I been so disappointed at the squandering of such a stacked cast, right? You've got Wanda Sykes, you've got Jane Lynch, you've got Mindy Kaling, you've got, I think, Frank Walker, who originally voiced Fred and is literally still voicing Fred to this day, voices Fred's dad, which is a nice little Easter egg, but also, poor Frank, how'd they rope you into this? Getting back on topic with the story, Daphne's moms tell Velma that they're bringing her in for questioning because it looks like she might have killed somebody, and basically just singling her out as a weird kid.
Seriously, how long has it been since Daphne had you over to our house?
Since my mom went missing.
And then we very clunkily get the exposition that Velma's mom has been missing for years, which will be pivotal to the rest of the story. We next get introduced to Fred, who is a douchebag. And I hate this for Fred, because basically they have taken the personification of Fred that I thought Fred was as a small child and ramped it up to an insane degree, meaning that in my adult years I have learned to appreciate Fred, much like Eric from The Little Mermaid. I have come to understand that he's just a sweet little puppy dog with golden retriever energy, but not this Fred. No, they were like, this Fred has to be an asshole.
You cheat off me in Spanish because you think I'm Mexican.
And we're super woke, so the only white guy in the main cast is just gonna be completely useless because he's Fred, and it's just like, okay. I'm definitely not one to get offended at jokes made at the expense of white people, because trust me, we deserve it. But like, it's so on the nose. Come on. It's just so off-putting. And Fred is such a dear character that Frank Walker has poured his heart and soul into. We then learn that Velma is having, like, these hallucination/panic attack onset episodes. The animation is good with this show, I will say that, and these scenes where she's hallucinating are actually the most visually interesting parts of the entire animation. But I will say, and we'll kind of get back to it a little bit, but I will say that as a whole, and yes, I've only seen the first 2 episodes, as somebody struggling with mental illness who has struggled my entire life, I don't love the way that they handle mental illness. Like, they start off the whole episode with Velma making a joke at the expense of characters that are girls that go crazy.
And if they are about girls, it's usually like, hey, what made this hot chick go crazy?
Not that I think, like, crazy is a bad word, but, like, we see right away that she's very unsympathetic to mentally ill people, and then we see that she's suffering with mental illness, But then the mental illness as itself is not really portrayed in a conducive or realistic way. Not saying that everything has to be, but I'll get back to that. Again, I haven't seen the whole show, so maybe like, I don't know, maybe this will be one of those plot lines that'll get turned around in the last episode, like, well, everybody thought The Good Place didn't make any sense, and then you get to the end of the first season and you're like, oh, it makes so much sense. It makes all the sense in the world. But unlike that, only one or two things have the potential to be redeemable. There's certain things in the show that are just not redeemable. We meet Velma's dad. We realize that he's pretty emotionally absent, and he has gotten his girlfriend pregnant, which doesn't really feel like something that I would care about in a Scooby-Doo property of any kind, but they really, really want this to be a subplot about how much Velma doesn't like this.
I saw you eat a fry out of the vacuum cleaner last week, so spare me, I've had a long day.
They throw in a line about Velma eating french fries out of the vacuum cleaner, which just strikes me as a put down to the character as a whole, because like they're setting up this thing about how she doesn't really care about hygiene, blah 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 blah, and you're not gonna do that to my girl. Also, while we're on the topic of the way that Velma is portrayed, some people chose to be upset that she's not white. That literally does not matter. It doesn't matter. Like, she, Daphne, and Norville, or Shaggy, none of them are white, which doesn't matter. I was kind of interested to see what they would do with a version of the Mystery Inc. gang that has a little bit more diversity in them, because it's just, you know, diversity is just a good thing. I don't know why anybody would care what color the skin of the characters are. So know that that is not the problem that I have, and I still won't tolerate any racist comments, because there are definitely people who are using this to be like, ah, yes, this is proof of why the woke mob is blah 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 blah, this is why, you know, diversity in media is bad. It's like, no, that's not why we don't like this show. And seeing as I have the melanin levels of a golf ball, I'm not the one to be talking about this either, but I don't appreciate the fact that mindset that people are always waiting to jump on the bandwagon of, which is every time something doesn't do well and it stars a non-white cast or an all-female cast or something that aids to representation, everybody is going to sit back who doesn't want that representation and see, this is why we shouldn't make X, Y, or Z movies, right? Every time we get a mediocre all-female movie and it flops, Tucker Carlson's out here just like, is this the end of female-led movies? Even after Tom Cruise made that Mummy movie that everybody hated, and not one person said, is this the end of man movies? But that's, again, getting off topic. The malt shop they hang out at is called Spooner's. Whatever. They're having a memorial to this girl who died. We're like, they're all mean girls. They don't care about her really. And it's just like, whatever.
Normally in pop culture, when a slutty girl is murdered, we're all a little like, well, maybe she deserved it.
It just serves to make me dislike Daphne as a character more.
But Brenda wasn't just a rare slut. She was a rare friend.
Velma has a moment where she talks to Fred, flashes back to the night that her mom drove off and left. Her mom's car was found empty with just a Christmas present for Velma in the back seat. And she like won't open it until she can find her. And by the way, if that present ends up having a clue to her disappearance and or murder, I just want to say, Velma show, Monk did it first. Somebody on that writer's team watched Monk and went, ah, yes, we're gonna do the same thing. Not to spoil Monk or anything, but you know. And moving on, that's the first thing that I thought of, and I was just like, I'm not gonna watch it far enough to figure it out, because I just don't have it in me, I don't think. Oh god, my computer stopped. My internet doesn't want to keep watching this show. Next, Velma gets a ride with Norville. Shaggy. I will agree with the people who say Shaggy is easily the best character in this whole show. Like, by a mile, he's the only one that I actually can get on board with liking. He's chill. The fact that they've taken the whole, like, trope of, like, Shaggy does drugs and flipped it on his head and he's this really, like, straight-laced dude is actually very funny, and I didn't expect that from them. I expected them to take the low-hanging fruit of making him a stoner.
I think it has something to do with drugs, which I hate.
So I thought that was clever. He's just genuinely the only, like the only person that you can see being a decent human, at least for now. Velma goes home, has more hallucinations. She starts to believe that her mother just ran out and that she's not actually, you know, out there wanting to come home.
She left because she hated us.
Yes.
She gets no support, but then she starts deciding that she's gonna, like, rebel and change her image. And so she shows up at school dressed I guess what's supposed to be more provocative? It's really... She's just wearing a skirt and a halter top. But again, because she's supposed to be a teenager, I also don't feel comfortable with the amount of cleavage I'm seeing. And it serves to kind of like, I think we're supposed to be like Velma good, Velma the non-feminine girl good, Daphne and everything that she represents about femininity bad, shallow, which is something that I desperately, is that a word? It's a word, but is it the right word? It's something that I hate because we've kind of just started to move past this, like, internalized misogyny thing that, like, oh, to be, you know, a cool girl or to be a girl that's, like, worth anybody's time, you have to kind of, like, give up your femininity. I always liked that Daphne never sacrificed her femininity for her brains and her resourcefulness and her kindness until this, I guess, but we all know this isn't canon. Everybody starts bullying Velma because I guess everybody thinks that she's the murderer, which...
This outfit is clearly just a ploy to make us think you're not a brain-removing serial killer anymore.
Is very based on circumstantial, not even evidence, just like beliefs. So then here's something that I don't get. Fred just straight up murks a guy and he's just like bleeding out and no one even bats an eye at him. And I guess this is supposed to be a commentary on like the stuff that like white men can get away with, and again, I appreciate the sentiment, but like, my suspension of disbelief is gone when you're like, oh yes, these people would literally watch this kid, like, chop somebody in half like he's Darth Maul and not even question it. Like, I don't know, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Velma, on the phone with Norval, sneaks in to gather some clues. She has another near fatal panic attack. They describe it as like a near fatal hallucination type thing, which, not to like be more like mad about this than everybody else or like to make this into a bigger, more dramatic deal than it is, but the first thing that I thought was, this is a very, very bad line of thought to be putting in anybody's head that actually has panic attacks, because a lot of us, including me, there's kind of like this thing because your heart starts racing and all this stuff and you're thinking very rapidly and negatively. It's very easy to convince yourself that you are dying during a panic attack, so the fact that, like, Velma comes close to dying multiple times during these, like, attacks just feels like, a thing that I don't want in my brain. And then it's stopped by laughter? Like, Norval makes her laugh, and the panic goes away, which is not the way that that works at all. She's sneaking into Fred's house to get a camera, by the way. I know that I said she was sneaking in, but I don't think I actually said where because I was just sidetracked by the bad mental health, whatever. Alright, I've only got 1 minute left and I've got a whole nother episode, so give me like, I lied, 15 more minutes on the clock. Basically, we think for like a second that Fred is the murderer, and then obviously he's not, but then Daphne's parents, who are cops, break in and shoot him, an unarmed teenager, which given the past couple years especially that we've lived through, but also like all of police in the American history, feels like something we shouldn't really be joking about. I don't know if it's supposed to be funny because because he's white and it's just like, oh, Fred can be the butt of every joke because he's a white guy. Again, I'm not against the jokes at the expense of white people, I'm really not, but like...
You're not terrible cops after all!
They assumed you were a package thief.
I don't know. It's still police brutality if it happens to anybody. Again, not to take this too seriously, I guess.
Why do you think you hallucinated? The rules feel a bit muddy.
Muddy? Oh, sorry I'm not a drunk on the verge of losing custody like every other woman solving murders these days.
Norval and Velma find another dead body, missing their brain. It's a gross way to end the episode. Let me try to rapid fire this second episode because I really want to be done here, but there are important things to talk about in the second part. So at this point, Fred, who's been shot in both legs with minimal medical care, it looks like, he's being hauled out of his rich parents' house. There's another joke where like his robe comes undone and we're supposed to be like, isn't that funny? All of these reporters see his penis, and again, he's a teenager.
I haven't finished going through puberty yet.
I find it creepy to be joking about that, but anyway, this is the episode where we learn a little bit more how Velma and Daphne used to be best friends, but then they drifted apart, and by drifted apart I mean they hate each other now. Velma finds out that her dad, who's a lawyer, is taking on Fred as a client. He's defending him, which everybody, including Velma, acts like this is him like selling out, which is... It's just strange because I'd love to see some lawyers like Emily D. Baker talk about this, but like defense lawyers don't necessarily think that the people that they're defending are innocent or even should get off without any prison time. They're just trying to make sure that the government doesn't overstep so that like the justice system as a whole can be protected. It's very weird to be like, out of all the hot takes I pictured them taking, dunking on defense attorneys just seems to be an odd choice, especially since Fred is obviously going to be cleared of doing this crime. So it's just like, what? I'm supposed to think that you shouldn't defend the innocent? I don't know. Then we go to school and, you know, Norville, he's really against drugs. Bunch of kids are doing drugs openly outside the school. This is where we get the infamous line.
You know what 420 is, right?
Yeah. It's code for adults who still watch cartoons.
Again, I do a lot of work for myself and for other people here to kind of help them recover from possibly being bullied for liking what they like as a kid, and really just kind of like helping them kind of take all of this in as a therapy. You know, yeah, it's a joke, I get it, whatever. I'm not trying to be that sensitive, but one, don't make fun of the people who are actively watching your show, because you're actively insulting the people who are choosing to spend time watching your show, as a bunch of other people pointed out. But also, animators have had a really rough couple of years, especially. They are fighting to just get treated equally in the industry, to be paid fair wages, and this feels like, especially coming from HBO Max, who murked their entire animation department to the point where they took off like most other animations and then tried to tout that this show was the most watched animation on their platform when it's like the only animation on their platform. Feels very punching down to be like, yes, animation is stupid. It just feels very like tone deaf, and it makes me angry for animators in general, but especially animators that like put in the work on this show. I don't know. It upsets me, okay? I'm sure there are people that think this is reading way too far into it. Again, if you like the show, whatever, but these are just things that rub me the wrong way. Velma's dad meets with Fred and his parents. We learn that Fred is even less capable than we initially thought he was, and his parents hate him. Norville also has a live stream where he talks about foods and snacks and things that he really likes, which again is just another kind of wholesome part of his character and a good way to like bring in the like he loves food kind of thing. But they couldn't even make it look like a real live stream. Jesus Christ, you guys. What live stream interface looks like this? This looks like AOL Messenger. I'm not a great streamer, but I'm enough of a streamer that I can be annoyed at that. Then Daphne recruits Velma into helping her sell drugs, because of course she sells drugs, and in exchange she will give her mom's cold case file. Feels like a very skeevy thing to do. I don't know if that's the correct word. It feels like a very slimy thing to do if somebody's trying to solve their mother's disappearance, to be like, sell drugs for me and then I'll help you. It feels kind of predatory. Velma's really bad at selling drugs. And oh yeah, Velma has a line about like, I tell the truth just like every comedian did before Me Too.
I spit truth without a filter, like every comedian before #MeToo.
Look, I'm not sure what they're trying to say in that. I mean, I can imagine that it's no person in their right mind would try to make that joke in earnest, so I have to believe that in this day and age, that is a joke. We're supposed to be like, oh, isn't that stupid that Velma thinks like that? But Velma's the main character and the protagonist, and like, of course, there are shows like Seinfeld, It's Always Sunny, where all the protagonists are garbage, which this show is, with the exception of Norville. But like, I don't know. There's no rebuttal to like what she says, and she's supposed to be like the super smart chick that's solving the murder, so I don't know what I'm supposed to think about that. It's just, at best, a very poorly executed, attempted takedown of people that think they're being victimized when they're called out for saying shitty things. Velma and Daphne go through a little bit of a chase sequence of sorts. Again, I'm not the first person to say this, but the debate club right next to the Better Debate Club is kind of a funny throwaway joke. I wish more of the jokes in the show were like this. The cops that shot up a teenager also hit a baby with their police car. Meanwhile, Shaggy is about to sell one of his kidneys on the black market to help Velma because he's in love with her. Because they decided, hey, remember that time that they tried to put Velma and Shaggy together and everybody hated it? Let's try to do that again. We get romantic tension between Velma and Daphne, which is fine. If I liked either of them in this portrayal as characters, that would be fun. She accidentally almost sells drugs to her dad. There's a joke about beanie wearing, which just annoys me because it's just pointless.
Why were you wearing a beanie? Those are only for television actors who want you to know that their roots are still in theater.
She then is able to be convinced that Fred is innocent. Her dad puts her on the witness stand. I feel like in real life, if this wasn't a cartoon, this would be seen as a massive conflict of interest since she's his daughter, but whatever, we don't have time for that. They use the fact that Fred literally does not know how to use a fork and a knife as a teenage person as proof that he couldn't have killed people and removed their brains, which is just so dumb. I cannot tell you how dumb that is. I haven't seen anybody talk about that, but it just bothers me so much. And then because they've lost or are losing the case, her dad's like worried that his career is over, which is not, it's just, I don't think defense lawyers, when they're just like, when they lose a case, are like, oh no, my career is over because I defended somebody who needed a defense. Also, Velma just says on the witness stand that she thought Fred was hot when she first met him, before she started hating him as a person, which is just, I don't know why that's a thing that she said on the stand. And then also there's more of a hallucination. She kisses Daphne, and that's, I believe, more or less the end of the episode. What have we learned from all of this? Well, we've learned that I get really pissy about things that probably should not make me this angry, but they make me angry because of deeper reasons, right? It's not just like, oh, this show's bad, I don't like it. I can walk away from shows that I don't like and just concede that they're not for me, but maybe somebody else will find enjoyment, and maybe somebody else is finding enjoyment over this show right now, and if so, great. I don't like that this show feels like it was made by every person who bullied me as a teenager for liking things that were not cool kid things to like. Anyway, that's the end of my rant. I was ranting for so long I didn't even get to dramatically flip over my cup. I'm gonna go watch something that I would rather be watching right now. But yeah, I don't like the way that this just kind of like pokes fun at animation and people that just like kid stuff and defense lawyers. I don't know. It's just a big dumpster fire. Oh yeah, and then all of the drugs that they were selling were named after like Jinkies and the Mystery Machine.
So, what are we selling?
Oh, it's just the usual. Zoinks, Jeepers, Mystery Machine, and of course, ganja.
It's just so stupid how much they just seem to hate being a Scooby-Doo thing. I don't get it. And it just upsets me. I feel like it's like, I don't know, there's just so many things where I'm just like, how did they test this? Like, I was talking to my brother and he was just like, how did they test this with like focus groups and still think that this was good? Like, there's no way the focus groups came back good. And so yeah, I'm just confused. So I'm gonna go say goodnight. Oh god, that's Sailor Moon, which I need to be in the right frame of mind before I watch something that I actually enjoy. But yeah, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing. Everything you do to support this channel means the world to me. If you're new here and you're a fan of nonsense, maybe consider sticking around. I post nonsense all the time. And remember, my name is Avery. I'm a YouTuber if you say so, because words. Thanks to you guys, this is technically a YouTube channel. Hopefully this will be the last time I ever talk about this show. Bye.